There are 7 levels of World Cup fans, and I am convinced you can tell someone's entire personality by which level they are currently stuck in. Because the World Cup does something very funny to people. It takes a sport that most of the planet treats like a religion, drops it into everyday life for a month, and suddenly everybody has an identity crisis. People who have never watched a 90-minute match in their life are screaming about goal difference. Your coworker who thought offside was a kind of tax fraud is now explaining pressing triggers. Someone's uncle who only watches American football is standing in front of the television yelling, "Why don't they just shoot?" as if no one on the pitch has considered that option. And now that the World Cup is in North America, the levels are even more obvious. You have the lifelong football people. You have the immigrant families who have been waiting their whole lives to see their country play nearby. You have casual Americans discovering that the rest of the world has been emotionally unwell about this sport forever. You have tourists trying to follow matches across 3 countries. You have people who came for the vibes and accidentally developed a tactical opinion about fullbacks. So today, we need to talk about the 7 levels of World Cup fans. And I say this with love, because I have been several of these people at different points in my life. Level 1 is the tourist fan. This is the person who does not really know what is happening, but they know something is happening and they want to be near it. The tourist fan owns exactly one piece of football clothing, and it was purchased 3 hours ago. They might not know the roster, they might not know the group, they definitely do not know the backup goalkeeper, but they are having a wonderful time. They are the ones walking through the fan festival with a flag painted on their cheek, holding food in one hand, filming everything, asking strangers what the chant means, and saying things like, "Wait, this is actually kind of fun." And honestly, I love the tourist fan. Every sport needs entry points. Nobody is born knowing the difference between a low block and a panic clearance. You start somewhere. You start with the colors, the crowd, the music, the feeling that something bigger than you is happening. The World Cup is perfect for that, because it is not only a sports tournament, it is a global cultural event. In 2026, it has 48 teams, 104 matches, and 16 host cities across the United States, Mexico, and Canada. That scale means millions of people are not going to experience it first as analysts. They are going to experience it as atmosphere. And if you are a tourist fan, welcome. You are not fake. You are early in the journey. But please, and I say this gently, do not wait until minute 87 of a knockout match to ask why the clock counts up. Level 2 is the patriotic casual. This is a very American level, although every country has its own version. The patriotic casual may not watch club football. They may not know what league their players are in, but when the national team appears, suddenly they have the energy of a founding document. They wear the flag, they chant the country name, they call every opponent "these guys" because they do not know the country well enough to form a more specific opinion. They say, "We just need to want it more," which is a beautiful sports phrase because it contains almost no tactical information. In America, this fan often treats the World Cup like the Olympics. They may not follow soccer year-round, but they understand national pride. They understand red, white, and blue. They understand standing for the anthem. They understand yelling "USA" until their voice sounds like gravel. And this is where the rest of the world sometimes laughs at Americans, because global football fandom is usually deeper than national branding. It has club history, local identity, class identity, political identity, family memory, neighborhood memory. A lot of European and South American fans do not just support a team, they inherit a team. The songs are older than some people's grandparents. The grudges have historical footnotes. American sports fandom is intense, but it is often built differently. We have school spirit, franchise loyalty, regional pride, tailgates, marching bands, mascots, scoreboard prompts. It is loud and emotional, but it is also entertainment shaped. So when a patriotic casual enters the World Cup, they bring American sports language into global football. Sometimes it is charming, sometimes it is cringe, sometimes it is both in the same sentence. And I need to defend them a little, because caring loudly is better than being too cool to care. The patriotic casual is how a lot of people enter the sport. They watch one match because of national pride, and then 2 years later, they are waking up at 7 a.m. to watch a club in England they cannot pronounce correctly. That is how football gets you. It starts with a flag and ends with a subscription you swore you would cancel. If this kind of cultural breakdown is your thing, subscribe, because this channel is basically me trying to understand why America feels normal until the rest of the world stands next to it and says, "Are you sure?" Level 3 is the vibes merchant. This person is not here for tactics. They are here for aesthetics. They know which kits are beautiful. They know which fans have the best songs. They know which city looks best on Instagram. They know the player who went viral on TikTok. They know the food near the stadium. They know the fan zone schedule, the after party, the best place to take photos, and exactly how to drape a scarf so it looks casual but not accidental. At first, serious fans make fun of the vibes merchant, but let me tell you something, the vibes merchant is essential, because sports are not only spreadsheets and formations, sports are culture, and the World Cup without vibes is just men under pressure running in coordinated outfits. The vibes merchant notices things the tactical people miss. They notice the old man crying during the anthem. They notice the little kid wearing a jersey 3 sizes too big. They notice the way a city changes when thousands of visiting fans arrive. They notice that the same match can feel completely different depending on whether you watch it in a sterile living room or in a crowded public square where strangers are hugging like cousins. And in America, the vibes merchant is going to have an absolute feast. Because the United States is built for spectacle. We may not have the oldest football culture, but we know how to produce an event. Giant stadiums, huge screens, celebrity sightings, food trucks, tailgates, fan festivals, merch everywhere, parking lots that somehow become temporary villages. The entire country has this ability to turn an afternoon into a branded experience. That can be annoying, but it can also be electric. The danger for the vibes merchant is that they sometimes confuse atmosphere with meaning. A beautiful jersey does not make a team good. A loud fan zone does not mean a deep football culture. A viral clip of people singing does not tell you what that song means to them. But when the vibes merchant grows up a little, they become very powerful fans because they understand that football is emotional architecture. It is sound, color, ritual, memory, movement, place. And yes, they will still rank every kit. Level 4 is the rules lawyer. This fan has recently learned enough to be dangerous. They know offside now, and they want everyone to know they know offside. They pause the replay like a courtroom exhibit. They explain stoppage time. They explain VAR. They explain yellow card accumulation. They explain why a draw can be good. They say things like technically at least 14 times per match. In the 2026 World Cup, the rules lawyer has even more material because the tournament format is bigger than before. 48 teams means 12 groups of 4. The top 2 teams from each group advance, plus the 8 best third-place teams. That creates a new round of 32 before the usual knockout drama. So the rules lawyer is thriving. They have charts, they have scenarios, they have a notes app full of goal difference calculations. They are saying, if this team draws and that team loses by 2, then the third-place ranking changes, while everyone else is just trying to enjoy chips. And listen, I make fun of this fan because I am this fan sometimes. There is something deeply satisfying about understanding the machine behind the drama. But the rules lawyer also reveals something interesting about World Cup culture. A lot of American sports are built around clear statistical segmentation. We love standings, brackets, seeding, playoffs, records, drafts, measurable dominance. American fans are very comfortable with sports as math. Football is math too, but it is also chaos. You can dominate a match and lose. You can have 70% possession and still watch one counterattack ruin your day. You can do everything right and get punished by a deflection off someone's shin. This drives American sports brains crazy, because American sports often give you a lot of scoring. Football asks you to sit with uncertainty. It asks you to accept that one goal can contain the emotional weight of an entire season. It asks you to understand that a 0-0 draw can be boring, tactical, heroic, or all three depending on context. That is hard for new fans. They want constant payoff. Football gives them tension. So the rules lawyer is learning not just the rules of a sport, but a different emotional rhythm. And if you are sitting there thinking, okay, I want the deeper version of why Americans process football so differently from the rest of the world, that is exactly the kind of extra context I put in the membership. It is the more personal, nerdy, behind-the-scenes side of these topics. Level 5 is the logistics survivor. This is the fan who has stopped asking who will win and started asking how they are physically getting to the stadium. And in 2026, this level might be the most American level of all. The logistics survivor has 5 tabs open. One for the match ticket, one for the hotel, one for the shuttle, one for the rideshare estimate, one for the government travel advice that says, very calmly, that some venues may be a considerable distance from the host city. They are learning that North America is not Europe. They are learning that a tournament across 3 countries means different entry rules. They are learning that if they are eligible for the US visa waiver program, they still need ESTA approval. They are learning that Canada has its own ETA rules for many visa-exempt air travelers. They are learning that Mexico has its own visitor documentation. They are learning that if you cross borders during a football tournament, you are not just following your team, you are participating in paperwork. And then there is the stadium problem. In a lot of classic football cities, the stadium is woven into the city. You walk, take metro, follow the crowd, hear the singing getting louder street by street. It feels organic. In America, many stadiums were built for cars. They sit in entertainment districts, suburbs, massive parking zones, or places that make sense if you own a vehicle and very little sense if you are a visitor trying to use public transit with a dead phone battery. New York/New Jersey's official World Cup transport page says there will be no general spectator parking on stadium property on match days, and that fans need to use official transportation options. Los Angeles Metro is running special World Cup service. Different host cities have different plans, different prices, different routes, different rules. So the logistics survivor becomes a World Cup expert, not because they know football, but because they know how not to get stranded in the stadium parking lot at midnight. Respect them. They are carrying the group chat. Level 6 is the heritage fan. This one is emotional. A heritage fan is not just supporting a team. They are supporting a parent, a grandparent, a language, a childhood kitchen, a flag that may be hung in the house even when they live somewhere else. In America especially, this level is huge because the US is full of diaspora communities. Mexican Americans, Colombian Americans, Nigerian Americans, Korean Americans, German Americans, Moroccan Americans, Ghanaian Americans, Argentine Americans, and so many more. The World Cup in America is not only Americans watching other countries visit, it is millions of Americans watching pieces of their own family history walk into stadiums. This is where the World Cup becomes more than sport. For some people, it is the first time they will see their parents' country play in the country where they grew up. For some, it is the first time their kids will understand why the family gets so intense every 4 years. For some, it is a way to feel connected to a place they love but do not live in. For others, it is complicated because identity is complicated. And I think this is the part of American football culture that outsiders sometimes underestimate. They look at the US and say, America does not have real football culture. But that depends on where you are looking. If you only look at the national broadcast, maybe it looks new and awkward. But if you look at immigrant neighborhoods, local bars, youth fields, Sunday leagues, family WhatsApp chats, Spanish language broadcasts, African restaurants packed for matches, Korean churches organizing watch parties, German clubs in American cities, then the story changes. America has football culture. It just does not always wear one national uniform. It is fragmented because America is fragmented. It is multilingual. It is inherited through families. It is sometimes more connected to another country's league than to MLS. It is sometimes more passionate for Mexico or Argentina or Brazil or Portugal than for the US team. And that makes American World Cup fandom weird in a beautiful way. You can have a stadium in the United States where the loudest fans are technically American citizens cheering for a different country because that country is home too. That is not a lack of patriotism. That is the reality of diaspora. And if you have ever been the person whose sports identity comes from family history, I want you to comment which country you support and why. Not just the team name, tell the story, because those stories are usually better than the match preview. Level 7 is the football elder. This is the final form. The football elder has seen enough to no longer be surprised by pain. They do not get too confident after one win. They do not panic after one loss. They understand that every World Cup has a team that looks unstoppable and then forgets how to defend a corner. They know that a golden generation can still disappoint you. They know that the best player on paper can miss a penalty. They know that the referee will make a decision that ages you 5 years. They know that football is beautiful because it refuses to obey justice. The football elder watches new fans screaming and smiles with the tired kindness of someone who has suffered before. They are not joyless. They are actually the deepest kind of joyful, because they understand the whole emotional range. They know football is not only winning, it is memory, it is ritual, it is being 13 years old and watching a match with your dad. It is hearing a song and immediately remembering a tournament from 20 years ago. It is staying up too late. It is arguing about a lineup with people you love. It is losing and saying you are done forever and then checking the next fixture 10 minutes later. So if you are a newer fan and you feel silly for caring too much, do not. Caring too much is literally the point. The only real warning is this: the World Cup can turn a normal person into someone who has opinions about tunnel atmosphere, national anthems, group stage travel fatigue, and whether a badge looks better embroidered or printed. That is when you know the tournament has entered your bloodstream. That is another reason this tournament in America will feel different. American event culture is very good at souvenirs. Everything can become a collectible. The ticket is digital. The moment is temporary. But somehow, there will be a hoodie, a cup, a poster, a patch, and a limited edition food item that tastes like marketing. And people will buy it because memory wants objects. I used to make fun of this, but I understand it more now. A World Cup memory is slippery. The match ends, the crowd disappears, the city goes back to normal. And you want something physical that says, no, I was there. I stood in that crowd. I heard that song. I watched my country score. I saw strangers become family for 10 minutes. This is the person who thinks the thing they buy will somehow prove the memory happened. They buy the scarf, the pin, the program, the limited shirt, the plastic cup, the weird city-specific merch. And by the end of the tournament, their suitcase sounds like a gift shop falling downstairs. And there is one more mini level hiding inside all of these levels: the souvenir prophet. The football elder is what every level can become. The tourist can become a real fan. The patriotic casual can become a year-round supporter. The vibes merchant can learn history. The rules lawyer can learn emotion. The logistics survivor can become the person everyone trusts. The heritage fan can pass the story down. And that is why I actually love the chaos of World Cup fans. People complain about casuals. They complain about bandwagon fans. They complain about people who only show up every 4 years. But every lifelong fan was new once. Every expert once asked a basic question. Every tradition had a first day. The World Cup is one of the few events that still pulls people into the same emotional room. In a world where everything is fragmented by algorithm, country, language, politics, and platform, this tournament still makes millions of people look at the same moment and feel something together. That is rare. And in America, it is going to look especially strange because the country itself is strange. Some fans will treat it like a Super Bowl. Some will treat it like a festival. Some will treat it like a family reunion. Some will treat it like a tactical seminar. Some will treat it like a travel disaster with match tickets attached. But all of them are part of the thing. And maybe that is the real secret. There is no one correct way to be a World Cup fan. There are levels, yes, but they are not a ladder where one person is better than another. They are stages of attachment. At level 1, you discover the noise. At level 2, you discover pride. At level 3, you discover beauty. At level 4, you discover complexity. At level 5, you discover commitment. At level 6, you discover identity. At level 7, you discover that football was never just about football. That is why people cry. That is why people travel thousands of miles. That is why people spend money they should not spend. That is why people paint their faces, learn songs in languages they do not speak, call in sick, wake up at awful hours, and hug strangers. Because for 90 minutes, a flag becomes a story, a shirt becomes a memory, a crowd becomes a family, and one ball rolling the wrong direction can ruin an entire country breakfast. So whichever level you are on, enjoy it. Ask the basic question, wear the jersey, learn the chant, make the spreadsheet, cry if you need to. Just do not pretend you are above it. The World Cup gets everybody eventually.